Alright, here we are with the final film in the Carrie franchise, which consists of the original 1976 version, which is one of my favorite horror movies ever made. And then we get the Rage Carrie 2, which is bad, and then we get the Carrie 2002 remake, which is awful. And then we come to this one, to the 2013 Carrie, starring Chloe Grace Moretz, Julianne Moore, and Judy Greer as big named actors in this movie. There are a lot of little actors as well. Ansel Elgort is actually in this. This is his first role, funny enough. But this second remake, since we should have had two Carrie remakes, of course. And I guess they didn't count the TV version because it's not a theatrical movie. It didn't count, I guess, in a lot of people's eyes. So I guess that's why they decided to make a second Carrie remake. I'll give them this, though. This one's better than the TV version. I thought the TV version, watching it, was truly awful. I thought that was one of the worst remakes I've ever seen. And I really, like, rewatching that 2002 remake, it actually floored me in how awful it was. Like, it truly was terrible. And it, to be fair, it's a TV movie with the TV budget, with TV performances, but it really should have been more than what it was. But then we come to this remake, the 2013 one, which, again, they almost made the exact same movie as the 76 version. Again, they crib on that movie, where the original 76 version was Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie and John Travolta. That one is considered by many to be one of the best horror movies ever made, and it truly stands up to the test of time. Like, it truly blows me away. I'm stuttering. It truly blows me away in how the original Carrie from 1976 does everything incredibly well to establish this sad character who you feel so much sympathy for, and the chaos that ensues in the third act, while the first two acts are a build-up of this character being bullied, being tortured, and then by the end of that movie, it just blows me away with how scary it is, with how effective it is, with how incredible the performances are, and how incredible the direction is with Brian De Palma. So all of these movies, including the Rage Carrie 2, crib on that movie, and they do it way worse, and none of them are even close to in the same caliber as the original movie. And this one, funny enough, I'm going to mention throughout this review that it copies a lot of things from the other ones, this 2013 one. So let's get going with this review. It similarly starts out like the Rage Carrie 2 or the Carrie 2002 remake, where the mother of the character in both of those films wants to kill the daughter at the beginning of the movie. And in this one, they do the exact same thing a third time. The original Carrie didn't do that. It didn't open with the mother trying to kill her. In the remake in 2002, it did that. In the Rage Carrie 2, it did that, even though the Rachel character is older. But still, it did the exact same thing 3 times. Like, this is literally the third time that they're doing this opening. It's basically the same thing. Now, the mother wants to kill the daughter but doesn't, and that happens in all 3 of them, besides the original, all the other 3 movies. And it starts out in a way where I'm like, okay, this is where we're gonna go. We're gonna go with repeating the movies again. Seriously, again, for the 4th time. But I guess I can give this a positive, and I know people will probably disagree with me, and I don't think she was the best. This wasn't her best performance, but I thought that Chloe Grace Moretz was totally alright. She, to me, in some ways felt like Sissy Spacek's character, of that version of the character, where she was this shy, bullied girl that wasn't exactly over-exaggerated. And I did like how, even though Sissy Spacek is pretty in real life, they made her look so like she wasn't at all, and it's really effective in the original movie how they do that. In this one, Chloe Grace Moretz is a pretty girl, and I think that the idea that they were going for in this one was that she was a pretty girl. She's just a shy girl in this one. And that also, I read online that also they said that the Chris character in this version wore so much makeup and tanned and stuff because she was jealous of Carrie in this version, her true beauty. So I guess that's where they're coming from with this Carrie character, but I feel like a lot of people are going to still disagree with me that Chloe Grace Moretz doesn't look like a ugly girl that's really quote unquote ugly girl. I don't want to say, I don't want to call anybody ugly, but quote unquote a not good looking person. And I get to see why people don't like that, but I didn't mind her performance. I thought she was totally serviceable in this movie, and I thought that she was a fine replacement for Sissy Spacek's character version. Like, it's the closest I felt like to that one, even though it's not as good, of course, as Sissy Spacek, but it's closer than, like, the girl from the 2002 remake, Angela Bettis or whatever. And there's a moment that I really, really liked with Chloe Grace Moretz where at the beginning of the movie, it's like the original one where they're playing volleyball, but in the water. This time, difference, they play in the water instead of outside. That adds a point to it, doesn't it? But they're playing volleyball and Carrie hits the ball. But right before she does that, the girls who are bullying her, like Chris and Sue, are like, "Come on, Carrie, woo, come on!" And they're fake clapping and pretending like they're cheering her on. But I love the fact that with this moment, this acting moment with Chloe Grace Moretz, it actually made this character really, you feel real sympathy for her because she smiles in a way where she looks at these people who are bullies to her like they are, like she's falling for it. And it's like all Carrie wants is to be wanted. And I really love that moment where she kind of just smiled, even though she knows these people are bullies to her. Like she wanted to belong, like she was gonna belong for a split second, even though she throws the volleyball and it hits Sue in the back of the head. But I really liked that character moment. That was a great acting moment too. It was just a small little moment, but I thought that was something to point out. That's really cool. And I really liked how Judy Greer as well was a good replacement for Betty Buckley's character from the original, Miss Collins, and in this version, Miss Desjardins, or however you say her name. Desjardins. Whatever, however you say her name. They pronounce it differently in the other movies, I think, as well, but the coach, the teacher, who stands up for Carrie. I thought Judy Greer, honestly, was really solid in this. And again, she reminded me of Betty Buckley's character from the original one, but it didn't feel like in a way that she was copying her straight on. Like, they both are very similar in just how they talk. Like, I liked how they got an actress who was very similar to how Betty Buckley acted in the original. I like that. I think that's a really cool kind of copying the character from the original, but it's just the actress that's similar to the other actress. It's not like she's copying every single thing that she did. She didn't feel like a legit copy to me of Judy Greer's character as the coach in this one. But then we come to Julianne Moore, who's a great actress, but in this movie, she's really forgettable, like really forgettable. And it's unfortunate because I really like her in a lot of movies, but every line she has is a line that Piper Laurie did in the original. It's literally every single line is the same. And Julianne Moore just plays it very straight as opposed to Piper Laurie, who played it in a over-the-top way because she thought that she was in a comedy, like a black comedy. She literally thought she was in a comedic movie. But she is so incredibly effective in that original movie as the mother. Like, she is scary. And in this one, Julianne Moore is totally serviceable, but she's not anything that you remember. And that's sad to say that Julianne Moore isn't something you remember in this movie, because she's a great actress and really memorable in a lot of stuff. I love her in so many movies. I really think that she's a moving character, or moving actress. And in this one, it just didn't grip me at all. Like, she really was just there for no, like, I understand they brought in a big actress to play this role, but she was just forgettable because she was copying every single line verbatim to Piper Laurie, who was incredible in the original. So I just felt like she was very self-contained and she couldn't do anything different in the role. And the actress who plays Chris in this movie, I thought was really forgettable. Like, really forgettable. Like, she was, like, not in terms of the actress herself. Like, Julianne Moore is memorable because you see it's Julianne Moore on screen. But her line reads are the exact same thing. In this case with Chris, this actress, I feel bad for saying this, but she really is boring and forgettable. Like, this is a villain where she's not memorable at all. She is not Nancy Allen from the original one. She literally just is there to say lines like Julianne Moore is, and it's really a shame because I don't know if this actress has been in any other stuff, but in this, I really didn't like her. I thought she was just bland, and there was nothing to this villain character, and she never had a personality that stood out to anybody else. Like, as a typical bully character, she never had anything like with Nancy Allen in the original movie. Like, she really stands out in just how horrible she is, and like this one, this character seemed over the top in a way where it didn't work, but she was still bland as well. So I didn't get where they were coming from with this character of Chris, or with this iteration of Chris, and I really didn't like her that much. But then we come to Sue, the Sue Snell in this movie. This actress I thought was totally fine. She was serviceable. She, I felt like, did all right. Like, she wasn't amazing, but she wasn't bad. Like, she wasn't like the character who played Chris, or the actress who played Chris. But I liked that this character in this version did have a couple more moments of humanity in her. Like, in terms of, they did it in the first one with Amy Irving, which is obviously the better performance, but this performance is totally solid from this girl who plays Sue in this one, where you do get more scenes with her really debating with Tommy Ross and just with everybody else that, like, Carrie is this girl who's being bullied and abused by her mother, and she even sees her mother, like, how crazy her mother is, so she understands that Carrie is going through so much. And I like how in all these versions and in the book she changes and becomes a good person, but I like how in this one she got a little bit more, or a couple more scenes with just feeling bad for Carrie, and I thought that was cool. It just kind of humanized her a little bit more. So I didn't mind her at all. I thought she was totally fine, whatever her name is that played Sue. Like, she was totally serviceable. And after all the actors and actresses in this movie, I'd say that besides that, a lot of this is line for line. Literally, there's barely anything that's new in terms of dialogue. Like, the dialogue is copied almost verbatim from the original 1976 film. And I haven't read the book. I just know, I know stuff about it, but I've never read it. So I don't know if the dialogue is the same from the 1976 to the book, but either way, this copies the 1976 movie in terms of line for line. Like, it's the same lines basically with everything, except for it's barely tweaked in a way. So I don't know, like that. It's really annoying that this is line for line like the original one. I don't like when they do that, and it shows because these actors, even though there's some great actors in this movie, some of them don't really have anything to do because they're doing the same lines, repeating them from the original. And whenever we get to the right before the massacre at the end, the prom massacre, they copy Carrie too, and I realized this hearing from a friend and then watching this again, like, oh, they did the same thing like in Carrie 2, because at the end of Carrie 2, right before the massacre happens in that movie, the bullies show like a video of her and this guy having sex on camera, and he didn't know they were recording it, so like Rachel in that movie freaks out and causes all the mayhem and massacre. In this one, Carrie, at the beginning of the movie when she has her period and freaks out, they throw tampons at her, but Chris records that video, and then they upload that video at prom, just like they did in Carrie 2, where they uploaded that video of Rachel having sex with that guy at the party in Carrie 2, which is weird that they ripped off that. And honestly, I don't know which was done better in or worse in. Like, I thought it was totally fine in both of these movies that they did that, but I just thought it was funny that this one ripped off the sequel. Like, that's really weird. That's honestly, one of the only real original things about this movie is they put that little bit in where they showed, like, footage of her crying on camera, like, where she thinks she's dying, which does add to the benefit of hating the bully, but Chris in this version is just so boring and so uninteresting. But that's just funny that they ripped off Carrie 2 with that scene. And I didn't like this, but I thought it was funny that in the massacre at the end on prom, Carrie is more versatile in this one. She moves her arms like this and like moves them around instead of like Sissy Spacek or Angela Bettis, where they just stand there, or the girl from Carrie 2, where they just stand there and look at somebody and then they just like they do actions by not moving. In this one, Carrie is like a Jedi, where like she uses her hands and she even does a force choke, basically, because she grabs Miss Jordan, because you have to have her survive in this one, because in the book she survives, but in the original movie she doesn't. So in this one, she pulls Judy Greer up by the neck, force chokes her basically, because Judy Greer even goes like this, and then Carrie pulls her up to not have her die by getting shocked by the water on the ground. But Carrie is literally like a Jedi in that scene, like with using her arm, like using her hands. The way that she does that is just like a Jedi. She's an Anakin Skywalker or a Luke Skywalker, if you will. And basically, like in that moment, I was like, that's straight out of Star Wars. That's weird. But I give him credit for not having the same thing in the fourth time, where like Carrie or Rachel or in any of the other three movies stand still and just have something like go off with their eyes. But in this one, Carrie moves around even though it's dumb. So I like that they did something different, but it's stupid. She looks like a Jedi whenever she does that, moving her arms around. And weirdly enough, in this version, out of all of the films, out of all four movies, including the sequel, this is the most brief prom massacre out of all of them. Literally, it felt like 2 minutes. Like it happens where like Tommy Ross gets killed, she force chokes Miss Desjardins to save her, and then she blows all these people away, and then they all die, and then Sue runs away, and then Carrie blows up the school and walks out, and it's literally like feels like 2 minutes of the movie, which in a Carrie movie, whether it's good or not, you're expecting the final prom massacre or party massacre in the case of Carrie 2 to be longer and to be more effective. And weirdly enough, they lobbied hard to make this an R-rated movie, and it is rated R for I don't know why, because there's only like a couple of moments where in this movie I thought this earned an R. I felt like there was barely any violence that really solicited an R. Like, it seriously blocks a lot of violent moments. Like, for example, whenever Sue's outside of the glass door and she sees the people flying towards her, and that one girl flies right at the glass. Right when she flies at impact, it cuts to Sue's face, and then the girl's gone, and there's just blood on the glass window. They don't even show that. And that, to me, this feels like it's such a neutered R-rated movie. It's kind of like I Know What You Did Last Summer, where there's barely any real violence in that from what I remember. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember it wasn't very violent. And I think it was rated R, funny enough. But this one really, literally, barely had any violence. Except for one moment, which I liked, and it felt like I could have seen that in a PG-13 movie. But the violence in this is just so neutered down. It doesn't feel like it's an R-rated movie at all in terms of violence, and there's nothing really R-rated about this movie in my opinion. It really didn't give anything that felt like that. But there was a moment where I really did, like my favorite moment in this movie, where I actually really did dig this moment. It's only for like a brief second, but I liked how when Chris and Billy drove away, and Carrie comes out and like they try to hit her and run her over. Carrie like throws the car into like a gas tank, and it's just sitting there, and Chris's face is thrown through the windshield, so her face is like this through the window with glass just all through her face, her bleeding. And that's the only R-rated moment I thought in the movie that was actually violent. But she's literally there with her face like this, just out of the glass, out the outside of the window with pieces of glass like in her face, and like she looks tortured and like really sad, and like Carrie looks at her and just, she doesn't smile, but she just gives her a look and turns around, and then like the car just blows up. And I thought that was a cool moment for Chris to get her comeuppance, because it's one of those characters where you want to die so bad. Not in this version though, because I thought this version of the character was boring, but I like that moment where she's just face halfway through the glass window, or the glass windshield, and then Carrie looks at her and she's just got a look on her face like that's it, and then Carrie just kills her, like blows up the car. That's pretty cool. That was a very cool moment. The one really good moment I think in this movie, and it's only for like 10 seconds. So, but besides, I really did like that moment. So, and like I said, in terms of gore, there's barely any. It's weird how much this movie sucks as an R movie. It doesn't have any real violence. And with the effects today, like whether they're good or not, they could have made a lot more violence in an R-rated movie. That's so dumb that they don't have any real violence. That's really warrants an R rating in my opinion. But there was a scene that I did like too. I guess I could bring this one up as well, where after Carrie goes home after the massacre, her mom's there, and then her mom gets killed the same way Parker Laurie's character does in the original. But then Sue comes in after Carrie has the rocks falling down on the house. And they don't explain the rocks thing in this one either. But the rocks fall down on Carrie's house, and Carrie's in there with her dead mother, and then Sue's like, Carrie, we gotta get out of here. Because Sue comes and finds her. And I like this moment because Carrie does do the force choke, and she grabs her, and then she puts her hand near Sue's stomach, where in the movie earlier it said that Sue's pregnant, or could be pregnant. And I like this moment because then Carrie just says like it's a girl to her, and then Sue's just like, what? And then Carrie just says, get out of here, get out, and she like forces her out, uses her Jedi powers to throw her out. And I just thought that was a nice human moment between Carrie and Sue, and showing that like Carrie can even read that her baby is a girl already before anybody else knows, because she literally just got pregnant. But I thought that was really just a nice character moment. Those two moments I enjoyed. The moment with Sue and Carrie in the house before Carrie kills herself, and the moment with Chris at the glass with her face halfway through the glass. I think that's great. But that was just a fine character moment, I thought. I really liked that. And then the movie has to be really stupid. Like, it ends in a dumbass way, just like the other 3 Carrie movies do after the first one. Whereas in the Rage Carrie 2, we got that stupid-ass ending where Rachel comes back, and then she just breaks into glass, and that's it. And it's bad CGI, and it's terrible. And then in the 2002 Carrie doesn't die, and Sue takes her away across country to hide her. And that's how it ends in that, and that's so stupid. And in this one is really stupid, where you don't get the jump scare like the original Carrie, where Sue goes down and Carrie's arm grabs her, which is one of the best scares ever in a horror movie. In this version, you get Sue in court talking about how Carrie was bullied and she had power and we should not bully, which, I mean, is a good message. You shouldn't bully people. But then Sue goes to Carrie's grave, drops a flower down, she walks away, and then the grave just starts cracking. And then it ends. And you hear Carrie scream, but she's dead. What? So, it was a dumbass ending, like besides the first film, which is one of the best jump scares ever made. This one and the Carrie 2002 remake and the Rage Carrie 2 all have stupid ass endings to them, and they're really dumb. Like in the last minute of the movie, they ruin the last minute of credibility of each of these movies. Which is so weird how you can have some of the worst endings ever in horror to like one of the best ones in the first one, the original one. That's funny that they desperately tried to make something that was scary, and it wasn't scary at all. Are you kidding me? Just having the grave headstone just crack. Seriously, that's so stupid. So yeah, it ended on a shitty note. So this remake, I like it more than the 2002 one. I think the 2001 is awful, and it truly is one of my least favorite horror remakes ever, the 2002 version. But this one, while copying the original a lot, this one I think is more ambitious and more admirable than the 2002 remake. But honestly, if we're picking out of all four Carrie movies, the best one after the original, I guess, would be the Rage Carrie 2, because that's at least different. It's got bad moments in it, yeah, but it at least is different, and it at least tries to have a different character. In the 2002 remake and in this one, it's literally the same movie again. But this one is better acted than the 2002 one, and it's got better moments, I guess, overall. There's nothing really in the 2002 one I like, so I think that one's terrible. But this one, this black sheep that nobody likes, poor Chloe Grace Moretz, like, she's great. And I like how she has got that remake run where she always does all these horror remakes, like Amityville Horror, Suspiria, Let the Right One In, or Let Me In, whatever. I haven't seen either one of those, but I know she's in one of those, the remake of the original one. But, man, it sucks that she's in this. And it's not like the worst sequel, or the worst remake ever, because it's an average movie at best. Like, there's things that are okay about it, but it's nothing near like the original, and it's really uninspiringly dull. Like, no originality to it. At least Carrie 2, the Rage Carrie 2, is at least more unique than this one, even though it's like the first movie again, but with different characters and with a different plot, kind of. But this one was just the same movie as the original, but not as bad as the 2002 one. So this was just an average mess of a remake that doesn't need to exist at all, because the original is incredible, and all you need is the original, in my opinion. So yeah, we ended the Carrie films with a bad note, even though all three of them were bad besides the original. But I don't know, this one was just extremely forgettable. Really, just extremely forgettable. So, not the worst thing ever, but it was a very forgettable remake. Really, seriously. So I'm done with the Carrie franchise. Overall, I really love the first one, and then these other ones are shit. For the most part. Like this one and the Rage Carrie 2 have average moments with them, but they're not great. They're not good either. They're just not very good. So overall, I guess that's all I have. I can sum up my thoughts with the 2013 Carrie remake. So I'm glad I'm finished with this franchise, because all these sequels sucked and remakes sucked. So tell me down below what you think of the 2013 Carrie remake. And that's all I could say. Just tell me down below what you think, and thank you guys so much for watching.